And so we're going to jump in. I had the pleasure of being a part of a conference. I just happened to zoom in early, so my scrubby face was in Barcelona, I believe, where you guys had the conference a couple weeks ago, and I was just astounded, Dan, that had you guys had the technology that really is the future, and it's really taking technology and integration to the next level. And I put that invitation out to you to join this conference because really that's the next step of we had our team at NAG Inc. yesterday talking about data harvesting, data management, but where does that technology and where does that information go? And I think in big part that goes to some of the technology that you're developing. So maybe you can just give us a little bit of background. Feel free. I think we have you as the co-host, so you can share anything that you want. But we could just have a Q&A. And just wanted to thank you again. Sorry for the delay. I know your time is very valuable, so I appreciate you staying on and taking the time to join us today.
Thanks, Nathan. No, I'm a big believer in what you guys are doing and a big supporter. I think it's extraordinary. I live in Los Angeles and we spend a lot of time out in the desert, and I've got a 250-acre ranch up in Santa Barbara, and very, very much interested in land management and the well-being of the planet. And so what I'll run through a couple of decks here quickly for you today, so you can see what we're up to. Essentially, what we're doing though is something really, really elegant and really simple. The internet really began 50 years ago. It was just 4 computers plugged together to see, could we have a network of networks with no central computer? So we get decentralization out of it. And that means everybody's running on an open protocol, not owned by a company. Before that, we had networks by IBM and DEC and other companies like that. But now we're running on TCP/IP. We started with those 4 computers. We hit 20 million computers in 1994, and we're up to 40 billion computers today. So once you decentralize, then you can go exponential. So that's the wicked combo right there. As long as you've got a centrally controlled system, a siloed system, if you will, run by a corporation, then you're going to have a limited growth. And so we have 40 billion computers plugged into the internet today. If we hadn't done the internet, if we just had a normal growth of computing, we might have 4 million computers plugged in around the world today. And we probably wouldn't even have personal computers. I mean, because the reason they're so cheap is because they made so many millions of them. And that was partly due to the fact that email was the killer app in the 80s, and then the World Wide Web was the killer app in the 90s. Those things don't happen without decentralization. So the internet itself at the physical level runs on TCP/IP, an open protocol. And that really just gives every machine an address and allows machines to exchange information. The killer app was email. Then Tim Berners-Lee did the same exact thing in 1994, released HTTP, but instead of giving every machine an address, he gave every web page an address. So we have URLs. We started with 8 or 10 web pages in 1993, 94. We're up to about 10 billion web pages today, all indexed, all interoperable, all really one actual system because they're running on a common protocol, but they're decentralized. Anybody can follow the protocol and build a website anywhere in the world they want. 2 girls in Senegal, 2 people in Korea, and launch them. And so you get millions of people building these billions of web pages. And that's really what we're after. So now we're ready for the next internet. And why do we need another internet? Well, why didn't they do the World Wide Web in 1970? Well, they couldn't. The machines were too slow. The networks were too slow. So you could finally do a web page in 1994, and we could actually watch a web page download. I mean, we had modems in those days, so things were very slow. But what we really wanted wasn't an internet of machines, and what we really wanted was not an internet of documents. What we really wanted was an internet of everything. Every river, every bridge, every tree, every lamppost, every building, every autonomous vehicle, every drone, everything all together running on an open global protocol. Well, when you got that, then you've got basically the world game, or you've got the bioregion game. And so we could take your entire bioregion that you're doing there and build it as a giant computer game. And then AIs operate in that environment. So you've got a hologram really that you're all operating in, and you're living in it. You've got augmented reality glasses, particularly in the next couple of years. They're going to get really cheap and fast. Everybody's going to have them. They'll be like smartphones. And the whole world lights up with data. You can have holographic characters giving you guided tours. You can have special devices, IoT devices that are reporting in on air quality, water quality, particulate matter, whatever you want. And you get a real world model in real time. It's not data sets trading the old AIs. It's a new kind of artificial intelligence that actually is looking at the real data in real time of the world you're living in. And therefore, it can actually make inferences. So it's called active inference AI. So we're really bringing three things to the table. One is a new protocol. Instead of the HTTP of the which hypertext transfer protocol, it's about transferring text across networks, and that's the web pages that we have today. Now we've created a hyperspace transaction protocol, HSTP, and that really is because we're interacting and acting in spaces. Those spaces can be as small as a sub-millimeter or as large as a planet. Each one of them can have its own spatial domain, spatial URL, and then it has rights, rules, privileges, all the other things that go along with that. So then you can have nested spaces within spaces. And so within your bioregion might be a space. And then within it, a pump in the bioregion might be a particular IoT device that has its own domain, with its own governance models and its own reporting requirements and all the rest of it. So now you've got interoperability at scale. And of course, because what you're building there in the Southern California, Northern Mexico area is compatible with everything else worldwide. Now you've got a global data model and everybody can transfer information around. And that allows us then to do climate monitoring more effectively than we've ever done. So we're working with the World Bank, MIT, Yale, and others on new climate models. And I'll share just a little tiny bit of that with you today. So anyway, the company is called Versus Labs. We're here in LA. So the protocol is done as a very similar to the way HTTP was done. It's not a commercial product. We wrote it, but we gave it to the IEEE. So it becomes a global protocol. It sits in a nonprofit foundation called the Spatial Web Foundation. And anybody can join that foundation, and it's free. And just like HTTP or TCP/IP, it's just an open global standard. And then on top of it, we build applications for smart cities, smart regions, smart factories, smart hospitals, other kinds of things that you can use, but anybody else can compete with us and build application tools as well. And so I'll show you a few things today that we're working on. And so really, it's kind of, we've had 25 years of computer gaming now. They've grown up, and that's billions and billions of dollars of huge games like Fortnite and World of Warcraft. And we've got 25 years of the World Wide Web. So you could kind of argue that it's really the merging of these two. But then we're bringing in extremely advanced AI. So it's AI as a service now. You don't have to have your own AI. AI is right there just as a service. Everybody gets kind of a high quality AI system. So in every city or in every bioregion, you've got many, many subsystems. Right now, if you look at all the smart city projects, these things are not interoperable at scale. I mean, so McKinsey just did a study of 300 smart city projects, deemed them all failures. They really aren't truly interoperable. They're siloed applications, autonomous vehicles, smart grids, that kind of thing. But really what we want is everything working together. And that's, so then we really get a world where we got smart everything, smart grids, smart homes, smart cars, smart devices, smart factories, smart hospitals, the whole deal. Everything smart, connected, automated, secure, and sustainable. That's where we're going to be in 2050. How do we get there? That's what we're talking about today. So the reality is today, nothing really connects. So we've invented this new thing called HSTP that finally allows everything to talk to each other, just the way every website talks to each other on the World Wide Web. We also have some new technologies showing up on our doorsteps. Drones, you guys are probably using a lot of drone technology. Robotics, IoT devices, you guys use a lot of IoT. Computer vision, these things are not on the current web. The web knows about HTTP, it knows HTML, it knows how to mark up text on web pages. It can't. These things are not online, so you need HSTP to bring these in too, so that we actually can manage them and utilize them at scale. So really, what we have today is a fragmented city. We have really weak security. We're vulnerable to all kinds of hacking. We have got bad privacy rights. We've got lack of trust of our information, and we've got all the bad things that have happened during the 25 years of the World Wide Web. Everything is hacked, everything you do is tracked, and you can't tell what's real and what's fake. So we had to cure all of those things before we launched something like the World Wide Web of everything. Or actually, you're creating a bigger problem than we currently have. And we've done that using the Spatial protocol, which allows us to really link everything together. And you can see it. It's the fourth generation of protocols. So there's your TCP/IP in the 80s, which is basically your logic layer is your programs, email, Word, Excel on your laptops. The interface is a GUI interface, and the data is on your LAN or your hard drives. Then when the web came in, then all three levels of the stack changed. The logic then moves to websites. The data is on web servers, and the interface is browsers. With the mobile thing, and then it's apps, cloud, touch. That's the world we're in right now. Here's the new stack. AI and smart contracts is the logic layer, blockchains and edge technologies at the data layer, and augmented reality, virtual reality, and IoT at the interface level. Now, you've got a weird thing happening at the interface level here. AR and VR, obviously, is for the human beings, because we have binocular vision. So AR and VR is a natural way for us to look in and see what the AI is seeing. But the AI wants to see the world. So the IoT devices ultimately are for the AI. And the AI can use the IoT devices to build a real-time world model, so that when we are managing it, we can look in and see what the AI is seeing. And we call that augmented intelligence, where the AI and the humans are making decisions together. So that's the new stack. What's interesting about the new stacks, whenever they come in, you don't lose the old stack, guys. We still send email clear back on the old TCP/IP web. We still surf the web. We'll continue to use our apps. But what happens is 80% of our time is spent in the new stack. And that's why it's so disruptive. And so now with the new stack, everything's linked. And everything, therefore, is adaptable, because everything's aware of each other. Bikes see cars, cars see bikes. Everything's aware of itself. And so there's three levels to this thing. There's the bottom level, the protocol. There's the middle level, which is where you build your apps. And then the top level is where you deploy your apps. Well, very similar to HTTP. You've got HTTP at the protocol level. You got your websites at the top, but most people don't actually program a website in HTML. There's usually some kind of an application toolkit in the middle, like WordPress or Shopify or things like that. So we've provided this thing called the Cosm platform, which allows you to build spatial web apps really easily. And we're, by the way, we're full partners with Esri. So you guys are probably using a lot of Esri mapping in your world. So we make Esri maps smart now and three-dimensional. So it's called the spatial web as a general term. Deloitte's calling it the next era in computing. And here's what they say about it. We're now seeing the spatial web unfold, which eliminates the boundary between digital content over here on a computer screen and the physical objects in our world. We call it spatial because the digital information is escaping our screens and is in the world around us. So you actually just look right at the world and it lights up with data because you're looking into a computer game hologram of the world, which is, we call it shrink wrapping the world with data. And so then with that, then you finally get a fully interoperable smart world. And we do this by using something called digital twin technology. Could be built up from maps, could be built up from satellites, could be built up from scans, whatever it is. But now you've got a digital twin of the physical world that can overlay that world one for one. And then we endow that. It could be a digital twin of the city. And most cities are making digital twins of themselves. The Netherlands just announced they're doing a digital twin of the entire country. Every tree, every lamppost, every bridge, every building, every hospital, everything. And so we're going to see this. We're going to get finally a digital twin of the entire planet. But we don't stop at making the digital twin. We want to then merge the digital twin with the physical world and then endow that with all kinds of intelligence. And look at some of the levels of intelligence. It's layers of data. Right now they're siloed, they're separate from each other, but now they're going to actually be fully integrated into one multi-layered digital twin. So you can kind of see some of the layers of content that exist in a smart city or in the region you guys are dealing in. And here's even a more detailed look at some of the data layers. Well, these things all have to talk to each other and be aware of each other. And this is what we enable. And so here's another look at it. You've kind of got your physical world. You've got your connectivity layer with your 5G and other kinds of ways of communication. At the top, you've got your drones and your AR and VR clouds. We do the spatial management in the middle. Who is allowed to do what, where, and for how long, and under what authority? And that who might be a robot, or it might be an IoT device or a pump or whatever that gets turned on, turned off. What are the credentials that it's operating under? Who's allowed to operate it? Who's allowed to? And then how it's all verified on blockchain. So therefore, you have an immutable record of what happened for insurance purposes or for approvals. And so what we're real interested in context. By having a semantic description, what is happening, who is doing it, and under what authority, that gives us the full context of what's going on in your bioregion. And when context then gives us meaning, so everything's aware of itself. And AIs then are operating in there and helping to manage things. And overriding, it may stop that car, even if somebody's stepping into the street, even if they're not in a crosswalk. And we have an HTML type language. We call this HSML, which defines, in this case, who's allowed to do what, where. Well, in this case, a robot, by virtue of the authority of the Health and Human Services Commission, is allowed to operate within the USC Medical Center and has the right to take blood pressure as represented by this medical procedure certificate. It's not allowed to do anything else. That's what that robot is allowed to do. That's what it's certified to do. It can take blood pressure from a human patient in their room, in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can see, you can start to program all kinds of things in your whole bioregion with that. Who's allowed to do what, where, who's allowed to enter, who's allowed to change anything, that kind of thing, right? So here's the way it works today. Go and dig in the street and fix this pipe. And you've got usually some kind of a laptop or an iPad-like device, and you have a job to do, but a lot of mistakes happen. They hit the wrong pipe, hit a gas main, a water main, whatever, big problems. So now, instead, you've got a pair of AR glasses on, and the world lights up with data. Oh, use this equipment. Do these, and here's the smart contracts. Here's what you're supposed to do. And here's where you're going to dig, and here's where you're going to store the material. And as you're doing it, everything is being recorded on cameras on the blockchain, so inspectors can view it and make sure it was done right. And so you have spatial messaging that I can remotely be watching this from a remote location. That would be really applicable to you guys with all the stuff you're doing over a large region. And now you can even radio in and talk to people and say, hey, no, you guys don't use that truck. We're sending it out. And another one that's got this better piece of equipment. And obviously, a remote multi-viewing, so people in Mexico City, people in LA, people in DC can all be looking at the same holographic view of your bioregion. And you guys are talking about it and making decisions. You can see critical infrastructure that's hidden using, you've got all your underground mapping of all the data, facilities management, all kinds of cool and wayfinding and instruction data, routing data. We use this in warehouses and hospitals. That you offload the cognitive issue from the human into the AI, and the AI just shows the worker, go here and do this, pick this up, take this there. And the worker is feeling refreshed at the end of the day. They're not looking up and down 20 times searching for some box in a warehouse or whatever. The AI's taken them there, and the error rates go to zero. That may be really critical to some of the critical things you guys are doing. Obviously, you get cashierless type transactions. The point is, the AIs can see everything. They see the whole context in your bioregion. If there's any bad actors, it immediately spots them. Who's registered? Is this a registered drone, or is this somebody else's drone coming in here doing something we don't like? Somebody dumping something into the water, into the lake or something, and the low Earth orbit satellite might spot that right away, and you can catch it immediately. Obviously, smart transportation. Programmable drone flights, because we're geospatial in 3 dimensions. We can actually design drone highways. We just won the European contract from the European Commission. We beat out 80 other companies. You can imagine there's some big ones like Dassault to develop the standards for drone management through all of Europe. We're doing five city living labs for using drones for deliveries, for police, for medical, for other kinds of things. Well, we're the only company that can really do it. Everybody else is saying, we'll try to do it. No, we're already doing it. Here it is. And you guys are probably going to use a lot of drones to manage your region and keep an eye in the sky and all the rest of it. Entertainment, advertising, smart cities. We can also manage energy from the micro to the macro, from the appliance. We have nested accounting systems that go from the individual appliance to the house, to the neighborhood, to the city, to the state, to the country, to the planet. And we're working with the World Bank and MIT and Yale on that. And you can kind of see how that might work there. Now you get true climate accounting. So you don't get this double thing where people are planting trees in Kenya and 4 companies are claiming they planted the trees. No, we've got a detailed climate accounting. At the end of the day, you get a fully interoperable kind of smart region. And this is certainly for you guys: agriculture, manufacturing, distribution, messaging, medical, advertising, all integrated into really a smart region, right? I mean, it's a giant computer game, and you can manage it remotely, and you can make adjustments on the fly and all kinds of stuff. Real estate down to the land management level, all real estate ownership on blockchains. Obviously, you can see what's happening with cryptocurrencies, with buying and selling of art. It's going to be buying and selling of real estate in the future, fractional ownership, other kinds of things that may really be applied as you develop the region. And ultimately, you're attacking the UN sustainability goals, because you can't do it. Right now, it's nice. I mean, I go to Davos. We're advisors to the UN. We're advisors to the World Bank. We're advisors to the European Union. But everybody's waving their hands, going, "These are the sustainability goals," but they have no idea how to get there. You get, there's a famous management consultant named Peter Drucker. You've probably heard of him. He used to say, "Look, you cannot manage what you cannot measure, and you cannot measure things right now unless you have a proper geospatial management system that allows you to measure in real time, right, and make decisions in real time." The interoperability market for IT is $5 trillion. Obviously, it's a big market out there. You guys are part of it all. We wrote a book, by the way, called The Spatial Web. It's a good read. It'll help you get up to speed on what this whole new thing's about. Let me just show you just a tiny little bit on the climate accounting, because you guys can get carbon credits for a lot of the work you're doing. And that might be a particular valuable thing in the funding of your project, going forward. Let me see if I can get this here. 1 second. Here it is. Yeah. Okay. Hold on 1 sec. There's some work we're doing with Yale and MIT and the World Bank. It's smart ecosystem infrastructure, which should be very interesting to you guys. So these are some of the users and sources of data. You guys are dealing with all this right now. Citizens, local citizens, orgs, cities, countries. I mean, you guys have this problem in spades. So again, what I was saying, we're capturing data from sources and then nesting that data. Might go up to large users like factories, buildings, cities, other kinds of things. But then we've created something called a standardized climate accounting unit, which is 1 metric ton of carbon, and everything then gets normalized into that kind of data. So then you can run a proper climate accounting system with methodologies and certifications and other kinds of things. And we're working in Europe and the Middle East and China and US on this kind of stuff. And so it's a whole big nested spatial context for this accounting verification, certification of these things. And then that leads there, you can kind of see how the nested climate accounting works from the individual appliance all the way up through the global. That helps us meet the Paris Accords. But for you guys, I really think with carbon offsets and everything, all the work you're doing is just so positive in that area. I think it's another big source of revenue for you guys. And so then we create then this climate portal, which integrates then the climate markets, the climate financing, the certification, all the other pieces. So this is something that you guys will want to jump into and be part of as it continues to unfold. And so that's called the Open Climate Protocol. It runs on top of our HSTP protocol, and it's powered by the Spatial Web. We can actually even verify, like, okay, these these electrons you're putting in your Tesla right now, these are certified green because we know exactly the solar grid they came from, or the windmill they came from. So there you can even see it. There's the tracing the electrons right through the entire system, right to the use of it. And then you can kind of touch in anywhere in any region of the world and read out what's going on there. So anyway, that's a quick look at the climate accounting aspects of it as well, because that's critical to what you guys are doing as well. Anyway, quick look at what we're doing, and love what you guys are doing. And we're here in LA, so we're not far away, and love to work with you guys and share with you some of the technologies. There's obviously no big rush. You guys have a multi-year project, but we are local, and we are doing some the most cutting edge work in the world right now. I mean, absolutely, everybody's even our AI. I mean, you guys have heard of Google DeepMind? No. We went right past them. Google DeepMind came out of a group at University College London in England called the DeepMind Group, and they were based around neural nets. And then Google swept in with $400 million and bought them, and they became Google DeepMind. But the lead, the number one neuroscientist in the world is also at University College London, and he didn't join DeepMind. He said, no, I'm working on something next generation. It's not ready for prime time yet. You guys go do that. I'll stay here. And his name is Dr. Carl Friston. He's the number one academically cited neuroscientist in the world. Normally, if you have 20, 30,000 citations as a academic, you're a leader in your field. Dr. Friston has 250,000 citations. He's shortlisted as one of the top 3 people for a Nobel in the next couple of years, and the leading neuroscientist in the world. And he just joined our company as chief scientist, just to give you just a sense of what we're doing here. It's absolutely state of the art. And we'd love to apply it to what you guys are doing, because you're in our backyard, and a great showcase, and we believe in what you're doing. And I spend a good bit of my time in Mexico and working on climate issues. So it just kind of fits really nicely, and we can literally jump in the cars and drive out there and do some experiments with you guys and build some proof of concepts and that kind of thing. So it just kind of, when Nathan talked to me about it, I said, oh yeah, no, we're in. This is a great application for what we're doing, and it'll help you guys achieve what you're doing, and even tell your story more effectively. So that's enough from me, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Oh, Dan, you blew my mind yet again. and there wasn't even a second of hesitation when I asked you to jump in, because you encapsulated in the last 30 minutes what we've talked about for 3 days, but we've all collectively been envisioning for our whole lives, is where does technology be the assistant that we need without being the impediment that everybody fears, right? Everybody fears the AI takeover, but really what you just eloquently described is it's a technology integration that helps us elevate the discourse and makes humanity more efficient and saves costs. So I was talking about that with Mr. Shapun Nag yesterday, and they gave a great example. They did a project where they looked at sewer line replacement, and they were able to integrate the technology. So rather than having field engineers out there for 4 or 5 weeks looking at all of the different pipe sizes, it spit out the information in a fraction of a second.
It's ridiculous. It's so, AIs are so good. It's amazing. When we do a digital twin of like a warehouse or a hospital, it immediately calculates the fastest path through the system, for everybody from any point to any point. And so it runs a forward simulation that can look at your backward facing data and run simulations against that, and kind of showcase things you might want to do in the future. And it really, AI is really a godsend. It really lets us get to solutions we can't get to right now. And here's kind of a way we look at it. So here's the on the left is the current way we're doing things. On the right is the new way we're going to be doing things. The data's in the world, and then the AI. What do AIs like to do? They love to optimize games. I mean, look at that. I did my PhD at Berkeley in AI in the 80s, and people go, oh, AI it'll never be as smart as humans. It'll never, no. And I go, well, what would prove that? What would make you convinced that it might be as smart as humans? Well, it can play chess, but it can never beat a grandmaster. Well, then that beat Gary Kasparov in 1997. That's 23 years ago. It's grown up a whole lot since then. In fact, we're actually building Jarvis right now. We're watching baby Jarvis come alive in the lab. And boy, that is a partnership model. And so we call that networked augmented intelligence. And so really, everybody on the planet doesn't just get a smartphone, doesn't just get a laptop, they get their own personal Jarvis. It'll manage their finances. It'll help them with their diet. It'll do all kinds. It'll teach them French. It'll do anything you want. I mean, imagine once you build one AI, it just makes 8 billion copies of itself. So then everybody gets a free AI. It's just amazing. And so every company gets an AI. And think about that. In 2030, the average person will have more AI than the largest corporation in the world has today. What's that going to do? We have no idea. It's going to be powerful. But I will tell you this, a lot of people hold up their little iPhone. I've got an iPhone 12 here, a really nice machine. And they just think, this is cool. This is a phone and I can surf the web. But if we just go back 30 years to 1990, and we ask the question, what's the fastest computer in the world today in 1990? It's a Cray 2 supercomputer. How much is it? $35 million. How many of them are there deployed? About 100. Only the largest corporations and government agencies have them. The iPhone 12 has more power than a Cray. And if I told you in 1990, in 30 years, we're going to have everybody a Cray, you just go, you're crazy. You're crazy. We can't do it. It's not happening. I mean, not only are we going to give everybody a Cray, we're going to downsize the Cray so small that it'll fit in your pocket. Oh, that's impossible. Cray's like 8 feet tall by 4 feet square. I mean, there's no way you're getting that down that tiny. And then no, even more than that. We're going to put every piece of data that's ever existed in the Library of Congress or everywhere, anywhere in the world. We're going to create a document web. This is 1990 before the World Wide Web. We're going to create a document web, and you can access it from your phone just by talking to it through an AI. Hey, Siri, show me the Constitution of the United States. Boop, Siri launches it up for you. No, that'll never happen, And every product that's ever been created will be available to you and be able to ship to you overnight and from anywhere in the world. Yeah, well, that'll never happen. Well, we did all that in 30 years. But now things are moving faster. So we're going to do that kind of drama in 15 years now, not 30, because things are moving quicker. And not only that, AIs can actually, humans had to build pretty much all of the websites. But AIs can build most of the spatial web. They just take the sat data and the map data from Esri, and they just start building out the spatial web for us. So we're going to go from 10 web spaces today to 10 billion web spaces probably in 2030, 2032. Well, that's going to cover the entire surface of the planet. So now we got a digital twin of the planet. Well, wow. Well, shoot, AI playing the game with us, out playing chess, it'll help us manage it, more effectively.
Well, it'll help us go into a nuclear site and clean it up in a year as opposed to 50 years.
Yeah,
it'll help us
watersheds, the whole deal.
Deploy the robot.
We really get a world game out of this, and AIs and humans working together. We can actually we'll have a planet cleaner, better, smarter, wealthier with 10 billion people in 2050 than we have today. So we're actually on the front edge of a renaissance, not a front edge of a dystopia. It's about to break out. And the pandemic has actually helped us in some weird way, forced everybody to go online and get used to working online and playing online and learning online and socializing online. And so we've really done a kind of a massive behavior modification experiment with everybody on the planet. And that's going to really lead to this. This is where we want to go. This is where we're going. And now we've got the technology to get there. And by the way, it's really cheap. I mean, IoT devices aren't that expensive. The protocols for the spatial web are free. I mean, when we do a warehouse or a hospital, we're charging about 30% of the savings that they're having. They calculate the savings. It's like, oh my God, we're saving $3 million a year here. Yeah, we'll pay you guys $1 million. And we're working with Verizon, we're working with Johnson & Johnson, we're working with BMW. So it's like the largest corporations in the world. So this stuff is proliferating, and this by the end of the decade, it'll be widespread. And we'll probably have, I would say, probably 20, 30% of the planet on the spatial web by the end of the decade, probably 50, 60% by the end of the by 2040, and then probably 90% by 2050. That's kind of the rollout. But it may be faster because AIs are very surprising. They can do things even more rapidly.
Well, you've kind of described, I mean, everybody has experienced over this last year what happened with virus tracking to inoculation and vaccination. The Renaissance man that we're talking to right now should have been hired from day one, right? Dan should have been on the forefront of how we actually track all of that. And I think that's where you're going, and that's what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
leading to.
We watched the PPE debacle. It's like, oh my God, if we just had the spatial web 3 or 4 years ago, you'd know where every piece was. And by the way, there was a lot of fake stuff being sold. There was a lot of fraud. There was all kind of, that just goes away because you've got absolutely verified origin of products. This is really a 3M N95 mask. You've got smart contracts. It only pays when it ships, and on and on and on. I mean, you just get rid of corruption. You get rid of faking. I mean, it's just, it really is, it changes everything. I think we're running probably right now at about 30% of efficiency. We got an $80 trillion global economy right now, but we're really running at about, we're so inefficient, we're probably running at about 30% of efficiency. So really, it's about a $25 trillion global economy. But by 2050, we'll be an 800 trillion. We're going to go 10x by 2050, and we'll probably be running at like 75 or 80% efficiency. So the abundance that's going to come out of this is just going to. The guy who heads up OpenAI said the other day, just AI alone is probably going to deliver $15,000 worth of value to every person alive. I mean, just it's that remarkable what's coming in. So, I'm in the middle of it all, so I see it all. People ask me, "Why are you so happy? Why are you so bad?" Because we're building. It's right there. It's obvious in front of you, And I think Elon's been doing the same thing with electric cars. People were going like, well, electric cars are a pain. They're impossible. You can't charge them. There's nowhere to go. And then he went, well, you can't just build an electric car. You got to build a battery factory. You got to build the chargers. You got to look at it as a systems approach. And now electric cars are viable. And other companies are finally jumping in. And so I think we're really at the turning point now where we're leaving the industrial age behind and we're really stepping into a digital global economy and driven by AI and cryptocurrency, smart contracts, artificial intelligence, and digital twins. And you guys have a project that's perfect for it all. We can digital twin the entire project, light it up with data, run simulations on it. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well, yeah, the energy production capability, especially when it's a binational. Obviously, the water crossing the border is a very hot topic. But energy, when we're producing energy south of the border and that's being migrated north of the border, the money exchange, the digital currency that you're kind of describing is all part and parcel to how it becomes open source and anybody can access that information if it's not sensitive in nature, but people can see the living being that is Laguna Salada, right? As it's being restored, you see the health of the region, the dust.
And by the way, it's running simulations in front of you, showing everybody with holographic material anywhere in the world. They can walk through it as it's going to be in 2050, and then roll back to where it is today, and the simulation will show them every step of the process on how you get there, so everybody buys in. Then you can fractionalize the support for it because it's a beautiful project. I mean, people maybe help crowdfund it even, people around the world would love to support that. I know a lot of family offices that are looking for great climate projects, they're going to really make a difference.
Right. I mean, the solution-based approach is pretty slim right now. I mean, everybody's looking at the doom and gloom, and I appreciate that you said that you're excited about the future, and we all should be, right? Because we get to design the future, we get to envision the future, and we get to inhabit what that future is by the work that we're doing. So all of that becomes part and parcel to being a part of it at every step.
Yeah, exactly. No,
I have to give you an example real quick, and I know you have to probably leave soon. We had one question that came in, but I wanted to give you an example of waste, and I shouldn't be saying it too much, but some cities, they actually hire outside agencies to find their assets. So we have, like D sheets or Mylars, which is the old school way of doing, civil engineering or right-of-way work, and municipalities hire outside agencies to find their own assets that are downstairs in their records department.
Exactly. We're actually working with the UN right now on critical asset inventory for the planet.
Yeah.
Exactly. And even low Earth orbit satellites with AI and drones, and even all the world models that come from all the autonomous vehicles and AR glasses, building a real-time world model, help us identify all the critical assets and inventory them. Then we give everything an ID, just like the original internet gave every machine an ID. The World Wide Web gave every page an ID. We give every object in the world what's called a decentralized ID. And so then everything's ultimately in a global ledger. And then they can be bought and sold and traded and owned and permissioned, and who's allowed to do what with this and under what circumstances, and all the rest of it. So it really does turn it into the global world game.
Yeah, and we're going to close out with Andrea's question real quick here. Andrea, I think you're unmuted, so let me get you on the screen here.
Hi, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. So we've been working a lot with our plastic offset company, looking at developing blockchain management and looking at supply control and analyzing data for efficacy of what we're doing. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on plastic, carbon, and water offsets being used as a financial trade model in the future to meet mandates between companies.
Absolutely. That's really what that's why we built the whole climate accounting system, for that exact reason. And we're working in the climate markets right now in China, the Amazon, other places. So completely correct. Exactly right. Exactly.
So
right.
what do you think about companies like IBM that have started to develop blockchain for some of the plastics industry? Is it important to have a marketplace that has lots of competition, or is it one where it's okay if there's one leader in the marketplace that basically leads like a trading finance group?
Well, I think there's going to be multiple steps to get to 2050. By 2050, one way to think about it is we're transitioning from an industrial age economy that's kind of based on competition to a new global digital age where it's based on more cooperation. We're building ecosystems now. So you won't have these silos. IBM won't have their own thing. It may start there, but ultimately it'll plug into the global ecosystem because you can normalize data. AIs can help normalize the data. So it's almost anything you're doing that's positive. Everybody, we all celebrate. You know what I mean? But ultimately, you got to be part of the global network. I mean, think about the World Wide Web. How many World Wide Webs are there? Right, there's only one. Right. I mean, if you want to start your own World Wide Web using a different protocol, HMTP, HyperMy, text protocol. Fine, you might have 20 companies on it, but nobody goes there. You see what I mean? So, like it or not, everybody joins the protocol. Well, but why? Because if you're in a smart city, you can't have the Android Apple thing going on. I can't have a pair of Apple glasses on. I can only see half the city. No. There's only one protocol, and the port has to be on the same protocol as the city and the airport, and because the trucks and the automated vehicles are all interacting. And so, at the end of the day, there's only one TCP/IP to link all the machines. There's only one HTTP to link all the web pages. There's only one HSTP to link all the web spaces. So you can start siloed, but ultimately you're going to go on HSTP because everything's got to talk to everything.
So also the banks in Wyoming, I'm sure you've been following what they've been doing with cryptocurrencies in Wyoming.
We're incorporated in Wyoming because obviously we're blockchain friendly, and Wyoming said, look, Delaware did a really wonderful thing for corporations. We have no industry in Wyoming, so we're going to do for the blockchain world what they did for the corporate world. And so many of the blockchain companies are based in Wyoming, as you know. Yeah, no, it's an extraordinary moment. I mean, clearly, if we're moving into a digital networked economy, well, then what has history taught us? We went from mail to email. We went from bookstores to e-commerce. We're going to go from money to e-money. Duh. I hit one button. Right now, if I want to send $30,000 to my sister in Paris, I mean, I got to go to the bank and wire transfer. It's a big pain. Costs me money, everything. I just sit at my laptop and blink, send her a half of Bitcoin and she's got $30,000. And it's just like email, you know what I mean? So I can never understand people go like, well, there's no utility. There's nothing backing Bitcoin. I'm going, yes, there is. It's called utility. Why did email blow up? Why did Hotmail become huge and then Google Mail and everything else? Because it's so handy to be able to hit one button and immediately somebody's got documents and mail and everything. They can respond immediately. Well, duh, e-money. Then, you know, am I missing something here? Is it more complicated than that? And then, you know, Ethereum said, okay, we got e-money. Why don't we put a contract on it as well? So if this happens, make the payment. So now you've got Bitcoin, which is kind of like digital gold. It's a great store of value and large transfers. And then you've got Ethereum, which has contracts on it. So under these circumstances, pay this, do this, record this. And now we've got all these NFTs that are really running on the Ethereum. They're running on the Ethereum blockchain. But now we've got probably 500 other chains that are kind of doing niche things that are really good at logistics or other kinds of problems. And that's the world we're going to live in from now on. And so people go like, oh my God, I bought Bitcoin and it was $300. And I thought, damn, I'm late. You know, because I had friends that bought Bitcoin and it was $10, you know, and I'm a technology guy. And I didn't really care about it. It was kind of, oh yeah, Bitcoin, that's kind of cute. It's kind of this fun thing. It's kind of growing. So I thought, oh, well, I should buy some, you know, I mean, I'm in tech. So I bought some at $300. I tell you, when it hits $60,000, you look up and you go, oh, that's awesome. And by the way, right now, if you look at tradable assets on the planet, gold's number one, $10 trillion. Apple is number 2 or 3. It's 2.2 trillion. I think Google is probably 1.3 trillion. Silver's 1.4 trillion. Bitcoin's 1.1 trillion. I mean, it's climbed all the way up to number 8. Facebook's below Intel's. Intel's only 250 billion. I mean, Bitcoin's climbed all the way up to number 8. And guess what? There's no CEO of Bitcoin. There's no Bitcoin employees. There's no Bitcoin PR company. There's no Bitcoin marketing agency. I mean, Bitcoin is just an idea. It's an algorithm, right? And look how fast it's growing. It'll catch gold in 36 months. It's going to go 10x again. So it's at 1.1 now. It'll cross gold probably in 36 to 48 months. It'll be the number 1 traded asset on the planet. And that's just Bitcoin. You've got Bitcoin's about 60% of the global token market. So it varies up and down. But Ethereum and all the others, they're going to be probably equal to Bitcoin as everything matures out. It'll probably be 50% Bitcoin, 50% other cryptocurrencies. So we'll have probably a $20 trillion global crypto market in you know, maybe 5 years or 6 years. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, you know, at that point, nobody's asking what's the good of Bitcoin. You know what I mean? They're all using it every day, just like email. You know.
Well, and it makes sense. The evolution is kind of what we structured this around, is how things evolve. And that's the only constant in life is change, as the quote says,
Yeah.
right? And when you work with change and you're not resistant against it, that's kind of what we saw over the last year. And it's unfortunate, right? Like what happened over the last, 365 days has been kind of what a lot of people have prayed for, is a shift. Not only a shift in mentality, but a shift in the whole consciousness of every person. Stop, understand where we are as a human species, understand balance and equity and how people treat each other. And I was hopeful that it was going to be the inverse, where it showed everybody working together. But to me, it kind of showed how those divisions are still entrenched. But it doesn't mean that that's how it has to stay. It just kind of reiterates that not even a pandemic can have people working together. We're still fighting wars.
Funny, though. I mean, we're having a Zoom call now, and I mean, I'm probably on at least 3 or 4 Zoom calls a day now. So it's a warm up to what's going to come. Obviously, we're going to be living in a holographic environment, and if you come home from the hospital, you're going to have a holographic artificially intelligent nurse attending you and reminding you to take your medicines or to do your physical therapy and showing you what to do. I mean, well, you know, it's so funny. Like 10 years ago, you'd see the parents yelling at the kids, quit playing that game and study, you know, and they're going, if they could have spoken clearly, they go, Mom, this is the study. I'm preparing to live in this new world that's coming, you know, because it is gamification of our planet. And you watch a kid playing a World of Warcraft or Fortnite or any of these things. I mean, they're like jet fighter pilots. I mean, their brains, their neurons are firing like crazy, and they have to do tactical decisions in short term while they're keeping the strategic view in place, and they're managing multiple things. I mean, these people are like trained for the world we're stepping into. It's 25 years of training there, you know, and Minecraft is a huge game. Kids are building out whole virtual worlds. And so I really think it's going to be a really fun run here from 2020 to 2050. And by 2050, it'll be done. And then it can really flower on the back of that. So 2050 to 2100, it'll start looking a little bit more like Star Trek, probably, you know.
Well, I'm excited to put on my jumpsuit. You know.
Yeah, me too.
We'll be on start on Elon Musk's spaceship to Mars. That'll be fun. Send our kids out there. But it's a really interesting time.
Building the starships. Yeah, exactly.
It's a really interesting time for, like you said, our children. I mean, ancient civilizations call them the crystal kids, like the 7th generation, right? And those children are so smart, like you just said. Their minds are ingrained with problem-solving skills, and
I'm stunned at the young. I'm stunned at young people. They're just on it. I mean, even the people we're hiring, even in their 20s now. I mean, you know, my head of AI went to Cambridge and then went to University College London. He's an MD and a neuroscience data scientist in AI, and he was a Google DeepMinder, and you know, like, I mean, like, oh my God, and he's 28 years old and he's heading up our AI department. You know, it's incredible, just so brilliant. You know.
Well, Dan, I just want to take this time to thank you. I think everybody learned a lot about everything that you have in your back pocket, and kind of the game-changing template that you're building for us, for all of us, right? The state, when it comes to water and tracking water, I mean, this is exactly what you described. Information doesn't lie and facts don't lie. And that's kind of what we're bringing this discussion forward with. And we're transitioning right now into the policy discussion of, you know, this is what the state or the federal government should use as their metrics, is just information, nothing else. No sugarcoating.
No, that's it. I mean, it's the record of truth, and that's why we're being driven to blockchains, because most of our relational databases, as you know, have been hacked, and so I mean, even the NSA, Equifax, everybody's hacked, and so Bitcoin's never been hacked, by the way. I mean, you got $1 trillion of Bitcoin there. Every North Korean hacker worth their weight is trying to hack that Bitcoin blockchain and failing. So. You want to have good data for the AI, and so the IoT devices will be producing the data in real time, so you have a real record of truth. You've got contextual data because all the AIs are cross-checking with each other with the satellite data and other kinds of things. So then there's no faking. If you got some anomalous piece of data there, it stands out like a sore thumb. And now you've got a really nice record of truth immutably on the blockchain, so you can scroll back and run simulations against it. And and then you've got AIs working with that kind of record of truth. Well, wow, now you've got simulations that have validity and power.
Yeah, and I've seen that in real time. There's been a number of groups that have done a lot of greenwashing with what they do in the plastic space. They get plastic from this beach and you're paying for it, but they're paying slave wages for someone to go out and pick it up, or they're not even picking it up from there. They're getting it from a landfill.
Good. The spatial web really hammers corruption. Double dealing, you know, anything like that. It's just there it is. Oh yeah, if something pops up that's anomalous, the AI goes, "What's that?" You know?
Well, it pulls it out automatically.
Pulls it right out, highlights it. Everybody looks at it and goes, "Oh yeah, that's not right."
Well, Dan, it's been an honor to have you here today. I look forward to hopefully collaborating with you in the future, and thank you for all the insight and technology.
No, thanks to you guys. I mean, listen. Mother Earth is really appreciating what you guys are doing. We got a planet in crisis here, no doubt about it. You know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All of us working together. That's how we fix it. So have a great day, and we'll be in touch soon. Yeah.
Nice meeting you all. Take care.